All right. Welcome. Happy Sunday, everybody. We have a new super awesome guest. I'm looking forward to dive in today with Altia Lucrezia. Did I say that right?
Yes,
Okay.
perfect. Thank you.
I'm terrible with pronouncing names. Um, so welcome to the Interview with Ed membership page. We do this every Sunday and have kind of different guests come on. So I first found your stuff on Instagram. You're doing light language. I think you're kind of like an Instagram sensation when it comes to light language. I've had so many people share your videos because I did an episode on light language for my season 3. And I discovered it, a few years ago. And I just thought it was a fascinating modality. And it's so awesome to see more and more people doing it and sharing it in public ways like Instagram. And how was that for you? Like, I know we're going to get into like a little bit of your history and everything else, but I'm just curious, how is that like going public with light language? What's the response you get? And I'm sure it's a mixed bag, but what's your experience with the public,
Yeah,
going public with light language?
that's a lovely question. So it was very interesting because I started channeling light language back in 2017. And it really wasn't a thing back then. Like if you went online, there were probably maybe like one or two, maybe 5 to 10 people channeling light language in the whole of the internet. So I was a little bit scared when I first kind of like came out and started posting videos on my YouTube and my Instagram. But I soon realized that because of the vibrational frequency that the light language holds, I was worried like people are going to troll me or they're going to insult me or they're going to think like I'm a schizophrenic or that I'm weird and whatnot. But actually, because of the frequency that it holds, it actually bypasses the people that are not meant to see it. And it just goes towards the people that are meant to, receive and understand and see the healing. So for the first few years when I was posting, it was really beautiful because I actually didn't really get any kind of like negative or psychic attacks. It only obviously a little bit later when you become bigger and your platform expands, then that's kind of something that happens. But I went into it expecting some kind of reaction, and actually the universe like fully supported me. So it was, yeah, I guess I just trusted, and it was a beautiful experience and way to go into it, even if at the time it wasn't really known.
Right, right. And when I first did my episode on light language, I started working on that episode in 2019. But it just kept coming up because other people were doing it in channeling classes and things like that. It would come through for other people, and I just like, okay, this is something's going on here. And just the fact that now where we are, it just seems like it's an accepted normal part of society. Maybe I'm just too deep into it, and that's what it feels like to me. But I feel no resistance or people ask questions. What is that? But do you get? I guess now you did say you get some trolls and stuff like that, but is it more accepted compared to when you first started it?
Yeah, for sure. Like it's definitely more of like there's more an understanding of it. There's more, a knowing that this is the new technology that is coming in to assist, to help, to heal. The people are integrating, receiving, and anchoring the benefits of it. So there, even the skeptical ones, they will come back because from on a subconscious level and in some way, they will integrate it, and they will feel like, oh, actually this is kind of good, even if I don't understand it, and whatnot. So I mean, it's quite rare. You will get the occasional ones who like give an insult or something like that. I find that Instagram, not really. I think because of the algorithm of Instagram, you just go to people that are kind of like in that wavelength or following similar people and whatnot. I actually found for a while that YouTube was a little bit more almost like less open, where people would sometimes come and make like comments and insults and things like that. But generally, I mean, now there's thousands of light language channelers out there, and what I've noticed is it's kind of like almost like a domino effect. And I've noticed this in my own practice as well in the past few years, I would, I don't anymore, but when I would actually look at other channelers now, I actually get told not to, but when I used to, I would actually start speaking the same kind of like dialect that they were speaking, and then start picking it up. And then I'll get people who will message me, like quite a lot of them, who say they get activated directly from the light language, or they start activating, or after a while they've been listening, they start opening up to the light language. So it's kind of like this beautiful domino effect that is going around in the collective, in our reality, because I think that, you know, all of us who are here and all of us who are in this journey and in this process together, yeah, it's obviously like wildly accepted. And in my own personal reality, I can't really say that I would be in a space where I would find myself around people who would be like, oh, you know, my goodness, what are you doing? Because kind of like the life that I live is in alignment with what I do.
Right. Well, going back to, say, 2017, had you heard of light language before from others, or was it just something that spontaneously happened?
So no, I had a colleague of mine who had been activated about a year before that.
Okay.
And I ended up going to this event called Africa Burn, which is like the Burning Man of South Africa. And I had about 7 or 8 light language channelers all work on me at the same time to open my system. So I was literally blown open. Like I had this very intense experience. I had a very intense purge. I was like shaking and gagging, cords were being released from me. So it was like a really, really intense process that I went through. I had another activation like that about 2 weeks after. And then slowly then my channel started opening. But I knew of light language, and I knew that I was meant to channel it. I just had to kind of do some purging and some work through my own system, so that my channel could be clear to be able to integrate and process it and allow it to come through.
I see. And did that happen before I heard one of your other interviews that you had sort of a traumatic operation that kind of started your path on things. Did that happen before that? Was this activation happening after or before the operation?
It was about, I think, 6 to 8 months after. So my accident was like my operations. I ended up in the hospital. I had to have 2 very intense operations on my kidneys because of the lifestyle that I was living. I was very overwhelmed by everything that I was receiving. So I was trying to like numb it down. And then eventually my body was like, actually, no. And then I had that experience with, you know, the operations with my kidneys and kind of like the wake up call and the kind of like clearing my system and my energy field. And then after that, I had an abduction, like I think 6 to 8, just 6 months after that. It was when the grace, you know, came. And then I think 2-3 months after that, I had the intense activations, and then the light language started coming through.
Do you think there was a connection in the sequence, like in how they happened? And yeah,
for sure. Yeah, for sure. There's no coincidence.
Yeah, obviously.
They put me through. Sorry.
No, I was just clearing my throat. I was gonna say that the psychic sort of light language operation that everybody was doing for you, were you feeling like releasing of maybe some of the work that the Greys were doing, or the operation itself repairing some of that damage?
Yeah, no, I was screaming. Hey, I was screaming, I was shaking, I was convulsing. It was like a full-on exorcism, like literally. Wow. That's what it was. I was clearing a lot of years of substance and alcohol abuse and, you know, drugs, and just years where I wasn't really taking care of my body. That's mainly what I was clearing. A lot of cording, sexual cords as well from old partners, energy cords that were in my field. I had implants. Like I think I had, I don't know, a one session of like an hour where all I was doing, I was just clearing implants and programs. I was riddled with these kind of things all over my system. So it took a while for my system to be clear. So, and I felt it. I obviously didn't have the conscious understanding at the time that I have now. Looking back at it, like I knew that things were going on, but it was a bit more confusing at the time. But yeah, I was definitely like clearing and releasing like a lot.
And so let's go into your ET experiences. You talk about the Greys, which you had mentioned in prior interviews were you had felt that it was kind of accidental in a way, in a sense that they were
Yeah,
just
so
patrolling the neighborhood or something like that. It's the first time I had
yeah,
heard that, so it's kind of weird. Interesting.
it was a very surreal experience. So what happened is I live in South Africa, I had flown to Italy. I went through quite a deep emotional sadness when I was there. I had an experience, and that brought me into a space where my vibration was really, really lowered. I went out and I started drinking alcohol again, and I had already stopped drinking. I wasn't an alcoholic, but I was just abusing alcohol in my years growing up. But I wasn't I didn't go to rehab or anything like that, but I was just drinking a lot, and I had a relapse. I'd been clean for 6 to 8 months, and I had a relapse, and I started drinking alcohol again that night, not because I wanted to enjoy a glass of wine, because I was emotionally distraught. So by doing that, I lowered my vibration, and I was staying at this friend's house who was on the bottom floor of a safe complex. So it had a door window that I left open. It was September. It was very hot. Milan was very humid. And anyway, that night I came home and I couldn't sleep, and I was really struggling to fall asleep. And then eventually I fell asleep around 3 o'clock, and I was in the astral realm. So I'm very active in my astral. I've been lucid dreaming since I was a young age. I always know what's going on. I'm in control of my space. I'm in control of my dreams. I know what's going on in my astral space. It's not really a space where I'm things kind of, so I was very awake in my astral space, and I was running, and I knew that there were aliens. They were coming to get me. That's all I knew. And then all of a sudden people started dropping dead next to me. So that I eventually interpreted as some kind of warning. Anyway, long story short, I hide under a table in my astral space. Then all of a sudden in my physical body, I'll start being prodded in the lower part of my back. So where the spinal column kind of starts. So just above the bum, and that area there. And I get woken up by this feeling of being prodded there, right? So as I wake up, so I was lying in the bed, and then there was the wall next to me. So I lift up my head and I see this gray in my face, with this gray face. And he was wearing a suit, which was also kind of a greeny gray up to here. And I could see that he was kind of stocky. And I saw him, I think that was about maybe 2, maximum 3 seconds. And then I was physically pushed back into the bed, physically my head was pushed back into the bed. And then I heard kind of a leaf from the window, and then I kind of woke up. I kind of got up, and I was shaking, and I was scared, and I was terrified. But I knew what had happened, because I knew that these things were happening and going on. So it took me I first got up and closed the window. Then I got back into the bed, and I was shaking. I was terrified. But I had to go through that to release all fear, because that was one of my biggest fears, and I had to experience it. So now I'm not really scared of anything anymore. And then I couldn't fall asleep anymore. Obviously, the dogs were going mad in the neighborhood. There was a whole bunch of things that were happening. And the next day I was flying back to South Africa. So what I did is, when I got back to South Africa, I found hypnotic regression therapist. I actually contacted 5 different ones before I found one that could help me, because I said to them, listen, this is what happened to me. There were beings in my room. Can you take me back there? And most of them were like, no, we help people quit smoking and things like that. Till eventually this one lady was like, I'm actually also a psychic. I've been a psychic, and now I'm a hypnotherapist. And she was doing I think it was the Dolores Cannon method, the QHHT. Oh, perfect, so I went in there. Yeah, I was in for about 3 hours. She brought me back there. And when I went back there, I went back as the higher version of myself, and I saw that there were 3 of them. And as I went back in the quantum realm, I addressed them, and I said to them, you cannot be here. You need to leave my system. You cannot be here. I don't know what you're doing here. And they actually turned around and looked at me, and they were panicked. They were like, oh my God, how is she here in the higher realms and she's there? This shouldn't be happening. She shouldn't be here. This is not what we signed up for. This is not our job. Like, we need to leave now. And so they left. And then when I went into the experience later, I channeled and I found out, obviously the experience was meant to happen to me, but they were kind of going around from house to house, trying their luck to see who they could, I don't know, do work on or things like that. So it was also a coincidence, but also at the same time, it was an experience that I was meant to have. But in that case, it wasn't something like, it was pre-contracted, but it wasn't something like in a way that was meant to happen, if it makes sense. So yeah, so that's kind of like the experience that I had with them. And then I've had other experiences where I was abducted, and I have memory of, but those were more like kind of like positive experiences. It was not nice. They were not nice beings. They were working for others. They were almost like they were wearing this almost like kind of shield over their thing, almost like insect, like cockroach type. It was not a nice vibration that they were carrying, and the only reason they were allowed was because of what I had done, previously in that evening. So yeah, so I guess that kind of sums that story up.
Yeah. And so the later, as your abilities improved, I guess let's go down that path, and then maybe we'll come back to this later. How did that experience help you get on the path you are now to having this more visceral contact, more aware with the beings that you're connecting with, as opposed to not being aware at that moment?
Well, it completely changed my perception. I'm a very logical person. So I was like, okay, so if the bad ones exist, then so must the good ones. And now I believed, like I'd seen them, like I believed. There was no way in my mind that there would be any doubt, because they were physically in my space. I physically saw them. So that kind of switched the perception in my mind. And then I said, okay, well, why don't I start then working and connecting to the ones that are good? And then that kind of put me on the path where I am now.
Can you describe maybe the next stage or the next steps? What was the sort of the next most profound connection or experience that you were able to make?
So I had a very intense activation in February of the next year. So this was September. I then had New Year's, and the year went on. And then in February, I went through plant medicine with a colleague of mine. And we did very intense work and activations. And then when I got home, I saw 2 Lyran beings standing at the foot of my bed.
Can you share which medicine you were working with?
Psilocybin.
Okay.
I was working with psilocybin. Yeah, I did some psilocybin. And it was a long, we worked in nature in the forest and whatnot. And then I came home and I was in bed. And after a few hours, I woke up in the night and whatnot, and I saw these 2 beings there. They were wearing uniforms, and they were wearing staffs. They were like 2 guardians, and they were 2 feline. It was the first time I saw any Lyran beings. And they were standing there at the foot of my bed, and I knew that they were there guiding and supporting and assisting. In that intense experience, I reconnected to a Pleiadian version of myself, which is the one that I worked with very closely now as well. And I kind of like opened up and activated my DNA and my connection to that through the medicine, through my experience. I was only able to go in so deeply because of the purging that I had done before as well. So I did that. And then I think that was, so that was quite intense. I wasn't channeling light language yet.
What did the Lyrans say to you at that time? Or did they what was their, they just were there?
Yeah, they were there holding space. And the way that I saw them was because I telepathically asked, I was like, are you here? Like, how is this, possible? And then they explained to me telepathically that they were there, but they were also in another dimension. I was able to see them because of the experience that I just went through. So I was in these higher realms and close to all these beings. So they were there, but it's almost, I saw them with my eyes, so this wasn't my third eye, this was like my actual eyes, but it was almost like they were translucenty transparent. So I saw like the outline and kind of like the shape of them, but I could see they were in another dimension. It was very I don't want to say weird, but it was very interesting and different to what you would see in your third dimensional density and reality. They weren't dense, do you know what I mean? And then
Sure.
as my abilities started developing, then I started seeing through the quantum realm, and I started to understand, okay, so like, you know, that's only solid when you touch it and everything's moving all the time and whatnot. And then it kind of made a bit more sense.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna ask about that. So you have a very, let's call it an interview with Ed vocabulary, right? With talking about densities and dimensions and the quantum. And I'm just wondering, how did that vocabulary evolve? Did it come directly from the beings, or how did you sort of form your current vocabulary? Which beings did it come from?
That's a very interesting question. Thank you for asking that, because I actually, I think to me it's channeled, because I didn't really study quantum physics. I don't really have a background in science. Yes, I mean, I have a good memory and a good understanding and whatnot, but I think my vocabulary evolved as I activated more parts of my dormant DNA and my galactic memory and my understanding of, you know, how these things and experiences work. And then it just, I guess, started flowing. But yeah, I actually can't give you like a definite answer to that, because
Sure.
I don't know myself. Yeah.
Okay, it's just kind of organically happening over the years.
Yeah,
With
I would say
being
that.
with
Yeah.
being with these concepts and trying to convey the concepts. I guess that's, you know, for me, it's finding the words to convey the concepts, and, you know, words like density and dimensions and um the quantums and these things are reference points that we have to help, you know, convey these, like, translucent beings that I could see with my real eyes, but they're at a higher frequency, so they're fading in and out, right? It's kind of science fiction-y stuff, but that science fiction is great for expanding our minds and our vocabularies to understand new concepts. So you mentioned you had an interaction in one of your other interviews with a mantis being. I'm just curious how that
Yeah.
sort of came about, because since we have Tony the Mantis here, and myself, I've had some interactions with those guys. So just curious about that interaction.
So I started connecting to this mantis, which is a higher version of myself as well. It's one of my higher selves. I call it because it's not like feminine or masculine. It's kind of like a fluid energy. And this mantis energy being started connecting with me very soon. Very soon. A lot of my channeled written codes come from him. Can't say him because he's more of a masculine energy, but it kind of varies. So my digital codes are very connected to him. And
What do you
yeah,
mean by digital codes? I'm not
so I
familiar
do
with.
hand-drawn codes, and then I do
Oh,
digital codes on my Instagram. I do different types of codes. So the digital ones would be the ones done like through a computer or the phone or something like that. And you can actually see in some of them kind of like the mantis antennas. And a lot of the work that I do on my clients in balancing the masculine and feminine sides, and on myself as well, has a lot to do with the mantis being that I work with. I don't per se speak to him, if it makes sense, but I receive a lot of information directly from him. But it's not kind of like, yeah, it's not like a being that I would see like in my room, like I would see the lions or something like that. It's a different connection, I think, because he's so high up, that it's interesting to see the more you evolve and start to like connect with these multidimensional beings in your multidimensional part of self, how they have their own way, also as individuals to, you know, in interacting with you.
right. Can I? I'm just going to do a quick screen share. I'm pulling up your Instagram. Maybe you can tell us about this. Is this what is this one of those codes?
No,
No.
you would have
Okay.
to go
Let
to,
me see here.
no, that's my, okay, you must go on the other Instagram. This is
Oh, there's another
my,
one. Okay.
yeah, you must go on the
Oops.
light codes by, yeah, the first one there down.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry, because one's more
Oh,
like my personal, and
personal.
this is
Oh,
my
okay.
light code
I
page.
see. I
Yeah.
see. I see. I'm
So
following this one. Okay.
you can go down.
Yep.
Go down. You can go more down, more
like
down,
that. There's
more down. No, that's written codes. The digital codes go a bit more down.
okay.
Yeah, so that one on the right, the full system technology upgrade, that would be Mantis.
Oh, okay. I see. I
Yeah.
see. So they're
Yes.
kind of they are more scribbly as opposed to more just a direct. It does seem like some kind of effect going on there.
Yeah, it's like a mirrored effect.
I see. I see. Cool. Um, and so you're getting the codes. Do you understand? You said there's no like language per se in the conversation, but are you understanding the meanings and able to translate what they mean? For
Yeah,
example,
I'll get it. Yeah.
what could you give us a little insight on that on this?
Yeah, I'll get like a feeling
Mhm.
of what it could be. So this one would be a technology upgrade. So it will work directly on activating dormant parts of your DNA and on the full system. So whatever is needed for you at that moment in time within your system, that will work on it. So I'll get understandings, I'll get little words or sentences and whatnot. And then, with the light language, it's really, really also quite subjective. Like I'll send the code and the intention with it, but you might integrate it in a way, and then someone else might integrate it in a different way, and whatnot. Especially also when I'm channeling the language, I'll maybe do like, I'll say I'm clearing the throat, and you'll see obviously later when I'll do some light language, you'll see I'll say I'm clearing the throat, I'm clearing the third eye, I'm opening this, I'm bringing in these kind of codes and whatnot. But that came with practice and with time, like everything channeling, light language, it's practice. The more you practice, the better you get at it, the more you trust yourself, the more you trust your channel, the more you trust what's going to come through. When my light language first activated and opened, I sounded blah, 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 blah. It didn't sound like language at all.
Oh,
It
okay.
sounded like ridiculous noises and sounds, but people don't see that because we see these channelers that are already, kind of embodied in speaking a language, but there is a whole process behind that, and healing and understanding and trusting yourself and going through that before you get to a point where you can actually share it as a more concise language and a more embodied and evolved way of healing than what it would be when you first start channeling it.
And another, so you're sort of the other guides that you also had mentioned were the ninth dimensional Pleiadians. Do they come through for
Yeah,
you
well, it's
more?
one Pleiadian.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
just one.
it's a higher version of me that comes
Oh,
through. And she, I see it more as a female version. She
mhm.
will come through and assist with a lot of the heart-centered work that I do, a lot of the heart expansion, a lot of the heart and throat connection, a lot of the rainbow ray codes come through from her. So she would work more in that aspect of me when I'm channeling and when I'm assisting. But I do work with a lot of different beings. It really depends. When I'm doing lives, I'll generally have, higher selves of people that are on the live that want to come through as well. I've been channeling an Ascension Council as well in this past like 2-3 weeks or so. It's been coming through this Ascension Council, which is, I think it's like a planetary Ascension Council that I work with. I've worked with the Ra Collective. I work with the Christ Consciousness Vibrational Frequency. So it really kind of depends. But mainly I do work with this Pleiadian version of myself, this Mantis beings of myself. I do channel Arcturian technology sometimes too, which is kind of like the clicky and the kind of like sounds like that would be more kind of
Okay.
like the technology when it comes through. So it really depends. I've worked with blue avian beings too. I haven't really like channeled them, but I've worked with kind of like the arrays. So it's almost like some beings have a specific vibrational frequency array of color as well that they work with. So it's kind of it's very interesting. I mean, you go in and you don't really know what's going to come out sometimes.
Well, question about that. How did the blue? So we've heard through someone I won't name, but there's a sort of of someone who made the blue avians famous on Gaia, and that quickly became also known as the blue chicken cult. And so so from your experience, because I know that's probably a different blue avian thing, from your experience with interacting with them, what are they like?
They're very curious. I actually had, so I had, well, it's opened again, but I had to close a portal in my room because there were a lot of blue avians coming through asking me for help and assistance. And I just wanted to sleep. And I would wake up in the middle of the night and there would be these beings and I'd have to go sit in my pyramid and start clearing timelines or doing work for them. And then at one point I was actually like, actually guys, no, this is enough. So was one of my experiences with them. I've had them also come through and kind of like be curious and interested in how our system works, almost like doing research. I had them, they were with them. It's almost like they're studying us. That's what I felt.
1 second, you froze on my end. Did everybody did she freeze as well? Okay, so could you just repeat what you you started to put your hands up and then I kind of lost you.
So I said that I felt them around me and they were kind of like doing work, almost like my crown and around my cranial structure. And I found that with them, it's almost like they were almost like doing like research and figuring things out and kind of finding out information from us, or from me anyway. So that's kind of like the interaction that I had with them. So yeah, I don't know what other people.
Yeah, were they sharing anything in return or just asking for help?
Yeah, so they were, so I've got this tachyonized pyramid that I work with. I can show it to you guys. It's quite a cool object. Yeah, so this was one of the first, kind of like objects that I started working with a few years ago. And I got it from someone here in South Africa and it's a tachyonized item. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with how tachyons work, but they say, you know, the tachyons are their answer for time travel. They say it's Pleiadian technology. Again, I'm not a scientist, so I mean, what I do and say, and this is what I've learned from channeling, but they started coming through this. And so much so that I had moved this. I'm just going to put it back because it's a portal there. So if I remove it for too long, then they're not very happy. But so much so that I had moved it and they had come to say to me that I had to put it back there because they couldn't do the work that they'd been doing. So that's how they came through to me. And they use tachyonized technology as well. But that's about as much as I know because it was... You know, I deal with so many kind of like beings and people and, you know, my clients and their beings and their higher selves and whatnot, that for me, even having to deal in my spare time with blue avians and their technology and assisting them, I was like, guys, this is a little bit too much for me right now. I'll help you where I can. But but that's kind of like the connection and interaction that I had with them. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, there's a whole other kind of, like I said, it's even gotten the name, the Blue Chicken Cult, through another person, and it goes really deep. But my feeling is that they're real, but they show up very differently than the way they're described to the other person, because many people are connecting to the Blue Avians in different ways.
I've never heard this chicken cold thing. I've never heard it, but I don't do any research. So I actually got told about 2 years ago from my guides to not really do any research or really, like, I'll follow like a few colleagues here and there, but they actually are like, no, it's because if you got to know something, we're going to tell you, so don't worry. So I'd never heard of this blue chicken thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's just a testament. So, you know, on my show, I'm covering a lot of different channelers, many who are channeling the same beings or same energies, but have a slightly different spin on it or a different take. So, and the lessons I like to teach is just, you know, these beings show up for each of us individually in a different way, how we can best interpret it. So it's not all going to be exact. There's going to be overlaps and there's going to be differences, and you have to be very kind of fluid with your overview on this stuff. I would assume you've probably interacted with many beings and other people are saying, well, that's different, or this is, you know, this is my experience and that's different, so you're wrong and I'm right, that we get that a lot. in this community, but to me, it's what's resonant for the listener and for the person receiving the information, the person getting the download, and then sharing it with the public. So some people will resonate with your stuff, even though it's Palladians or blue avians or, mantis beans or grays. Another example is the grays. I was going to ask you, have you had any further interactions with the grays since that one, and the heavier, darker one? Have you had like positive interactions with the grays?
Yeah, I have actually. So when I was about 3 months old, I was taken up on a ship, and they took some genetic material from me, so some DNA. And the reason that I know this is because I have a memory from when I was 3 months old. And I know scientists say, oh, you can't remember before you're 2 years old. No, guys, I have a memory when I was 3 months old. I was like outside of my cot. So I had like the cot with the bars. I was 3 months. There was no way that I could have, crawled out of it. And I remember being on the floor in my room in Milano. And I remember only being able to lift up my head because I couldn't like move. I was like an infant. And I remember the feeling of the wet nappy around me. Like I remember feeling the wet nappy like around my waist, and looking up and seeing like this gray, like, metal blinds, and that they were really, really scary. And I've kept this memory throughout my lifetime. And then I remember me like kind of turning my head in the morning as my mom opened the door. She was wearing a white robe, but she was holding like one of those like baby food things. And I had this memory all my life. And then when I started channeling, I was like, well, can you tell me, like, guys, what is this? No, actually, in 2019, I then had this interaction with this hybrid child, which was a gray being of about, I think he was like 8 or 9 years old. I was in meditation, and this boy came to me and told me that he was my son. From like, he was living up in like a spaceship, and he was my son, and we spoke telepathically, and I saw his face, and then I cried for about like 2 to 3 hours. It was like very intense, very beautiful, very loving and whatnot. And then I left it to that. And then after like a year or so, I then connected, and I was told when I went in to ask more questions that when I was an infant, 3 months old, the DNA was taken from me then to then make and form this child, which then came to me when I was like 29 or something like that in meditation. And it was part of my contract and part of my, what I agreed to and whatnot, and part of this hybridization program that they're doing. And I haven't connected to the child since. I felt him around. I think he must be like 12 or 13 now. I felt him, but I haven't actually. Maybe I should try and connect again, because I haven't really, there hasn't really been an occasion.
Well, really quick, how did you feel when they told you that this was your soul contract, and and this was why this is happening? How did that feel to you in that time, in that moment?
I mean, I was like, okay. Like I felt okay. I was like, it is. And I know they've taken me other times, because I've had times where I've come back from my astral space, and I've had almost like pains down in my uterus and, in my kind of like area there. So I think they've taken like 1 or 2 other times that they've come through. It's fine. I don't mind it. I'm not scared. I agreed to it. Okay, I can say no if I want to say no, like, and there's been times where I've been like, actually, guys, no, like you need to let me sleep. Like I want to sleep tonight. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I do claim my sovereignty when I have to. Like it's not like, you know what I mean? But I think, this child was a beautiful experience, and it was beautiful that that I was a part of that, and that he was made from part of me. And me being a mother also in this lifetime, I think, has made it kind of like even more beautiful in a way. But they haven't taken me in a while now. It's probably been like 2 years. Yeah, probably been like 2 years. And the times that they do take me, the last 2, 3 times, I couldn't really remember. I knew that I'd been taken. I couldn't really remember much. I could feel a little bit of pain. But then again, sometimes they just take me to do work and upgrade me and whatnot. So then that's also another thing. So I kind of just trust that they know what they're doing, that I know what I'm doing, that things, are going how they're supposed to be going. I don't really have the need or the attachment to know if it's not something that's feeling, negative or whatnot. I trust them. I trust myself. I trust my journey. I trust my channel. So I'm in a very big, beautiful space of surrender where I don't have to know the story. I don't have to understand it. I'll feel and I'll know if there's work and things going on, but I don't, yeah, I mean, I
Right.
accepted it is what, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I brought that up just because there's been a several years ago, I interviewed Bridget Nielsen, who has talked a lot about hybrid children, and then her viewpoint sort of changed over the years a little bit, and I think still overall positive, but it seems there was some sort of maybe spiritual bypassing some of the cases that aren't so feel good, because not all of them are, and I think so. It just seems like something that's coming to the awareness now is that some of these experiences are really awesome, some of them are not, some of them they're not good, but we're okay with it now. We understand what's going on a little bit better. So, there's just all kinds of mixed emotions that go around these experiences. And I'm just kind of wondering where you were at with it. So thanks for clarifying. Mark is asking if, for these hybrid experiences, is there equivalent of a father? How does, how do you, when you connect with your son, how does he have a relationship with a father?
I don't know. I actually
Hmm.
don't know. I didn't know. I didn't ask. Surely there should be. I would presume there should be. Well, I can tell you what he looked like. So
Mhm.
he looked somewhere between gray and humanoid. So his face looked almost human. The eyes were bigger. The skin was a little bit darker, but he had kind of like dark hair. So they took the human from me. Maybe the father was gray. That would kind of make sense if I would think about it, but I didn't ask and I didn't channel it. So I would presume that there would be. Yeah, I would presume that there would be.
Awesome. Um, and so I'm gonna go ahead, guys, and hop in with questions if you have any. And then Mark popped in there, but I'm gonna keep going here, and then you can squeeze in, raise your hand, and we'll get to you. The next thing I kind of wanted to ask is how did it evolve? So these experiences evolve into the light language, and the messages that are coming through now? What are some of the bigger sort of collective messages that you're getting? I'm sure on an individual level it varies greatly, but let's see, where do we start? Let's start with the evolution of the experiences.
Okay, so I would say that, like, for me, I always try to teach and speak from the heart and from my own experience. So what I have understood in this whole process is the things that I have been put through and that I am still learning and being put through, I then need to share and experience and speak about it on a collective level, because there's people going through the same ones as well. And this is why when I say that, I'm turning 33 this year, I'm still young, but I feel like I've lived like 1,000 lifetimes in this one, because of the memory and the soul fragment retrieval and the re-anchoring back into, and neutralizing the timelines, but also because of the actual human experiences that I had just in this one lifetime. And then I think you get to a point that the more you start opening up, the more you start activating parts of your dormant DNA, the more you start kind of like integrating this information, the more you start expanding also, like, from your memory. The more your memory starts expanding and understanding, and the more you start integrating, the more you start becoming multidimensional, the more you can hold, but also the more you can kind of like teach and express. So I would say that it's been an exponentially rising experience. I would say that to this day, like, I'm very structured in where I go and what I do. I have very firm boundaries, which I learned through experience. I live very much in alignment to what I teach. So I teach non-attachment. I live in non-attachment, I teach truth, I never lie, you know what I mean? So I try to really be as kind of like in alignment again to what I teach, to where I am in my own personal life. So I would say that as I have evolved and integrated more aspects and parts of my multidimensional self through soul fragment retrieval and karmic clearing and karmic neutralizing, then through that, then I've opened up more parts, and then from those, I guess, is what I teach and what comes through. I don't teach anything that I haven't to an extent experienced myself, and I also, I try to just really allow. I always say that I don't do anything, I just listen. I just listen, and then once you learn to listen, then what is meant to come through will come through. So I don't know if this kind of answers your question.
Yeah, and then how and so listening in these days, we did our meditation a few weeks back, well, actually 2 now, right? Were you on the other one? I didn't.
I didn't do the last one. I was having surgery for my
Oh,
eyes.
that's right. Okay. So but yeah, we're doing these collective meditations now. I'm sure you've been part of others as well, but what are sort of these collective messages that are coming in?
So much of sovereignty, hey? So much of sovereignty. Sovereignty would be like one of the main things, like reclaiming the sovereignty and understanding that, we are our own gods, we are our own sovereign beings, and being also mindful of the false light and the people out there who, put themselves above you. You don't really want to be in a space where you are kind of like looking up to someone who's not empowering you. So really empowerment, truth, the connection between the heart and the throat, a lot of healing through, I spoke about this earlier today as well, a lot of healing the core abandonment wound from all the star seeds. So the core separation wound from source. So that's quite a big one. And the healing the Atlantean karmic timeline, because right now we're going through this kind of like evolution of technology, which is exponentially and rapidly growing, and a lot of star seeds and a lot of people who were there during the fall of Atlantis are kind of like terrified, because they're like, oh my god, this is going to happen again. And it's a subconscious thing. So working through this fear on an individual, planetary and collective level, and at the same time Mother Gaia working through her own karma, her own planetary kind of like and human collective experience and karmic cycles. So I would say that these were kind of like the main points. We're moving now again with the April, moving into April, we're moving into the new astrological year. I mean, from what I've seen, April is going to be, there's going to be a lot of big shifts. I'm actually doing this workshop on Tuesday, which is on the 4th, just before we're doing the other guided meditation, where I'll be doing some grid work and anchoring. I'll be anchoring new codes for the new Metatronic grid that's going to be coming in to assist and to raise the vibrational frequency of the planet. So there's a lot going on. This year is going to be a lot.
Well, awesome. Well, Laura has her hand up. Go ahead, Laura.
When
your volume's a little. Oh, okay, there it goes. I said your volume was a little low, but it's good now.
You can hear me now. So I follow you on Instagram, and I don't really know. First of all, to my knowledge, I'm not feeling anything. When I don't know if I'm not patient enough and focused enough. But how do you look at the symbolic ones where they're written and mirrored? How do you read those as a viewer? How do I read them?
Yeah, you would have to just clear your mind and scan the page and just stare at it maybe for like a minute or so, and then allow for the codes to come in. Your subconscious is going to absorb them. Even if you don't feel them, even if you don't necessarily feel anything on a physical level, it doesn't mean that it isn't working on your system. And also, you might be someone who, I don't know, is busy or doing things and whatnot throughout your day. You might only be integrating in your sleep. So it's different for everyone. Everyone has a different energy field, but I would say, yeah, clearing your mind, doing maybe like 3 slow breaths, and then just staring at them and looking at them with an open heart and with an open mind.
Is there an order? Like we read left to right? And No, you just look at the whole image at once.
Whatever, if you want to, you can read left to right, bottom up, sideways, whatever feels good and resonates with you. Again, when it comes to codes, nothing is linear. So it's really kind of like unlearning all the conditioning to be in a space where, okay, like, it's not how you expect it. And because of the language being an expression, and because it cannot be translated verbatim and word by word, so it's really important to just let go of the logical side of the trying to understand and the trying to, oh, this means this and that mean that and what means not, and just allowing for it to come in, which is quite like a foreign concept for us, because, you know, we get taught, you know, structure and consumeristic society and programming and this and that and that. So to an extent, even just feeling them into heart center would be a good way as well.
Thank you.
Do you think, Sora? Let's see here. Yeah. Do you have, I see you have a pyramid in the back there. Do you have and you have some other sacred geometry on your wall. Do you post these light codes, like, so they're in your vision constantly, or they just come?
You can see I've got codes here.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Up there, I've got another 2 behind here. I've got, actually, if you look at, I've got there on top of my bed as well. And then on the other side, I've got, it's you can auto program yourself. It's a programming. I've got them stuck on my mirror in my bathroom. So I'm waking up, brushing my teeth, looking at codes. So yeah, it would be, you would want to, if you find one that you like and resonates with you, you would want to print it and look at it as much as possible. Yeah. It's like everything. It's like, yeah, an auto programming and training, I would say.
Like an affirmation. It's a fifth dimensional affirmation.
Exactly.
Sweet. Michelle, go ahead. You have a question.
Hello. Thanks for being here. I was curious your opinion on energy work, or helping someone energetically, healing someone energetically, having someone else release ties for you and cords for you. The balance between that and the person who's having the energy work done on them, what they need to do themselves. And because my kind of understanding is that we have these challenges in life in all different areas so that we can integrate them back into ourselves. And it kind of seems like part of that process needs to be done individually. Like I would be the one that would need to do it for myself to be able to really integrate it back into myself, or really get the lesson out of it. So I've always been a little curious, like how energy work done on someone else, does that do work for them that they should be doing themselves, to really get the work through getting back into integrating these negative cords or negative energies around them? Does that kind of make sense?
I understand what you're asking. Yeah, it's a very good question. It really depends. So any energy worker will hold space for you to do your own healing. They can go in, they can clear, they can release, ground, balance, align, but in the end, it does come down to the individual. If I'm removing a cord from your system, but you're still perpetuating it, then it's not really going to be very useful. Do you know what I mean? So I guess like everything, it's a kind of like sometimes can be a symbiotic relationship, a balance between the two. I do firmly believe that any energy healer should, this is why I teach channeling and how to clear your own cords and how to open your channel and how to do your own energy work, because you don't want to really need anyone. Yes, you want to go to someone every now and then. I go to someone also for assistance, because that's how we meant to work. We are all connected, so we're all supposed to help each other, but you don't really want to have codependency to anyone else. So yes, an energy worker can be great. They can assist you and help you and whatnot, but you are absolutely correct in saying that eventually you want to be able to do your own work, and then maybe just go sometimes here and there when you need just some extra support. So I hope this answers your question.
Yeah, that makes sense. And especially what you said, where if the person reinvites that back into their life, it'll come back. The cord, the whatever will come back. And so, yeah, that makes sense that someone can help you. but you're still responsible for maintaining that. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. Wade has his hand up. Go ahead, Wade.
And listening to light language, watching a person deliver light language, they're always moving their hands, and I don't know if that is strictly moving energy in a different style, or is it like sign language? Is it useful to watch the hand movements as someone is delivering light language?
Okay, so this is also a very good question. So with me, what actually happens is so if you imagine seeing the grid construct, okay, so you imagine it kind of like seeing like this and lines and whatnot. What I do, I will actually have little bits of light that come out of my fingers and anchor into the third dimensional density grid construct. So that's one thing that I'll be doing when I'm doing light language. The other thing, I'll actually be clearing through my own system. I'll be clearing through my throat, through my sacral, through my solar plexus, stuff for you guys. So when I go into again, I'm speaking from my experience and how I channel and how I work. Other energy workers might work differently. Then what I'll do is through my system, I'll be working on yours. So if I'm clearing your peripheral, I'll be working outside. If I'm doing on the cranial structure, I'll be working here. So it really depends to what type of light language work you're doing at that moment in time. But I would say that generally when I first started, it was mainly codes that I was anchoring into the grid. And then when I'm working on the systems, I'll be working through my system. I'll be working on all the other systems as well. It's kind of like my structure. So I mainly work in crystalline structure. I don't really have any more chakra system. Like for convenience's sake, I work on chakra systems on clients and whatnot, but you want to get to a point when you're fully working in your light body, and then your whole body becomes one big chakra. Okay, so that's kind of like how I work in my system. If it makes sense, I'll still have kind of like the points. I'll still clear through the solar plexus, the sacral, the third eye, and whatnot. But generally, it's almost like my whole system is working through crystalline structure within the light body. So even when my fingers are moving and I'm pulling codes through, it's almost like there'll be codes of light that come out and anchor into the grid. So yeah, I hope this kind of answers your questions. I'm also still learning, as I go, the different ways that kind of like the automatic movements and things work, but these would be the main ones. And then sometimes, there'll be tapping, there'll be actual like pulling cords out or removing. So I'll work through my system to work on the other people's systems.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Wade, did you want to ask your text question?
Oh, yeah. Different channelers speaking light language, they have different inflections, different tones, and some sound almost like a Native American sound, and others sound very differently. Are there different modes for different galactic races giving you the light language, or how many different languages are there?
I think it comes down to the individual and the individual's way of expression with the light language. So let's say that someone has more Pleiadian DNA, then that's possibly more what kind of vibrational frequency the light language will have. But remember, it's still filtered through the individual itself. So I would guess that someone who, has more mantis would speak a more kind of like mantis prone language. So it's difficult to say kind of like the different dialects, because everyone has a different way of expressing, and because it cannot be translated verbatim, and it cannot be kind of like put into a frame of understanding as your structured humanoid language would be, like the ones like English, German, French, or whatever, then it would be difficult to say, there's more of an influence of a galactic DNA in one compared to another one. Yes, you can have that, but it's really down to the individual's way of expression that the dialect would come through.
And is the most important thing the vibration of what is verbalized?
Yes and no, because they are from fifth dimensional density and up, it doesn't really matter. I could be saying light language and the volume's off, and you'll still be receiving the code, because the code bypasses time and space. I could be channeling light language on Tuesday morning and say, Reuben must receive it on Thursday, and he receives it on Thursday. Or I can say, I'm going to channel it Friday, and Reuben needs to receive it the day before, and he receives it the day before, because it's outside of time and space. So just for convenience's sake, obviously, you know, you listen, you hear, you see and whatnot. But if I want to, codes of their own intelligence. So if I want to program a specific code that you receive on a specific day, I can do that, and I can do it the day before or the day after. So yes, you want to be hearing it and whatnot, but if your screen is off, I mean, if your volume's off and I'm saying light language, you're still going to be receiving it, even if you're not actually hearing it. So I hope this also kind of makes sense.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
It kind of reminds me of the ultimate sort of definition or expression of art. You know, art is going to affect everybody differently, how they perceive it and how they receive it, right? And visual art, if we're just talking about oil paintings and whatnot. But any type of art, right? Art expression, dance, all of art is this sort of languageless expression of emotions and feelings, and it's received in this beautiful way. So I'm just, you know, for some of the naysayers out there, I'm just saying, you know, just everybody knows what art is. Just go to the art, the definition of art, and it's boundless, right? Timeless. Art is just has so many amazing definitions. So it's an expression of art. Always, to me, this is the way I've sort of helped me understand it a little bit.
Okay.
Tony, go ahead.
Hi guys, yeah. You know what? It's really funny how the universe works. Because I had absolutely, I swear to God, no idea that you are connected to the Mantis. I thought it was pure light language. And it's really hard for me to join on Sundays because I work, but I'm here. And then you're a Mantis, because it's really hard to find a lot of Mantis beings out, or at least, I guess people that say they connect to Mantis beings. So it's an absolute pleasure and it's an honor to connect with you. And I found through my experience that like they really allow me like to connect to other beings, almost like they're a conduit for others. Like, do you find that same experience, or like, you know what I mean?
It's a possibility. It's a possibility. Yeah. I mean, I haven't looked at it in that way, but it could be because the Mantis that I started working with was very, very early on, like from the beginning, from when my channel opened. So it's a possibility that through him, I then opened up to more other beings. So yeah, that would make sense. Okay,
interesting. Okay. Yeah, and I find that it's hard for like me sometimes to connect to them at all times because they're so high up, right? They come, you know, so I'm not sure what your experience is there. Like, do you have a clear connection at all times with them, or does it just kind of ebb and flow with what the need is?
Well, I do now because my channel is fully embodied. So I don't really have to kind of like tune in. It's kind of always there. But when I first started, it did take, I had to, you know, like sit and meditate and clear my mind and pull them in and whatnot. But again, with practice, like the more you practice, the easier that will be as well. I don't really, yeah, for me, it's whether it's the Mantis, the Pleiadians, for me, it's all quite embodied. And, you know, I mean, you have to understand, I'm channeling all day, every day, for clients and for people and whatnot. So it's obviously, you know, it's obviously gotten to a point where it's embodied, but it took like 1 or 2 years before. So it would make sense that you'd need to kind of connect and make a little bit more time and effort for it. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, awesome. I think that's it for me for now.
All right, thanks, Tony. Laura, did you have another question? Yeah, go ahead.
Althea, do you work with physical crystals in
Yes,
your practices? And how do you do that basically?
Okay, do you have any specific crystal that you want to ask me about? So I generally use clear quartz, is very good just for clearing everything. Tourmaline for grounding, amethyst for third eye, labradorite also for third eye. Anything blue works with communication. I work with blue candles as well. Whenever I'm doing either interviews or lives, I will light like a blue candle. So I work with a lot of different objects. Yeah, so, but if you have any specific questions for any specific crystals that you need, maybe that'll be easier than me rambling about crystals, because I can talk for like 2 hours just on crystals.
Not really. I have a lot of crystals, so I basically buy them based on their metaphysical properties. But I buy them more than I wear them. Once I wear them for energy, if I lack energy, I wear them for grounding or to help dissipate any anger and frustration when I'm dealing with certain people. And other than that, I just have so many, but I haven't really got to know each one of them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so I think with me, I started placing them on specific parts of my body, maybe when I was meditating or lying down, and then seeing how they worked in different aspects and areas. I work a lot with crystal wands. Wands will help you with clearing cords and things like that. Selenite, also really, really good to assist with clearing your energy field. So even for me, I work intuitively with them. So it depends on how you, I've got this one, you guys like this one. This one came to me, the early piece. And I've stuck a amethyst and fluorite on his head. This one came to me. I found him in a shop 2-3 years ago.
Is that sodalite?
Yes, it's lapis. It's lapis lazuli.
Lapis. Okay.
An alien skull, was that an alien skull?
Yeah.
How did you know how did you know we were gonna like it? Go ahead and take another look, Laura.
Well, say something so that you come on the big screen. Right now I'm speaker.
There, can you see it?
Right on.
Can you see it?
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I love it.
I love it. Sodalite is also
I
very
see you
good
too, Tony.
Sodalite is also very good for cutting cords as well. Hey, but this is lapis lazuli.
That's my next question. What are cords and why would I cut them?
Okay, so energy cords are basically, I actually wrote an ebook on this on my website. It's 30-40 pages or something like that. I'm going to try and concise it so that you guys can have an understanding of it. So whenever there's an alignment in vibrational frequency with someone, with anyone, okay, you're going to be forming a cord, okay? You don't really want to be carrying around all the cords that you're forming. I mean, you're forming a cord with the guy who's bringing you coffee at the restaurant. You don't really want to be keeping that cord, okay? So if you're not shielding, if you're not clearing, if you're not grounding, if you're not balancing, if you're not anchoring, and you're not doing actively work on your system, you're going to be carrying around these cords, These are just the cords in alignment with, when you have an alignment vibrational frequency with someone. Then you would have your collective cords, which would be the cords that you can actually pick up when you're walking around. Oh, let's say you're at the supermarket, the person in front of you, all of a sudden you start feeling angry and you don't know why. The person in front of you just had a fight with their husband or their wife. You're picking up what they're feeling, okay? So you can say, you're an empath, you're open, whatever it is. You don't really want to be doing that. You don't want that. Do you know what I mean? You want to be firm and solid and grounded within your field. And yes, if you want to be helping and assisting someone, then you want to, help them clear and whatnot, but you generally don't really want to be picking up cords because they end up draining you. There's obviously also healthy cords, which would be cords to mother to child or whatever parents, if you're in a good relationship. Some cords cannot be broken. They can be made inactive, however. Then you would have your sexual cords, which would be your cords, with partners. And you don't really want to be carrying those around after you're not with the partners anymore. So energy cords, they just an alignment in vibrational frequency that can form. So you don't really want to be carrying around cords that aren't serving you for your highest alignment. Beautiful friendship cords, perfect. Love cords, perfect. You want to keep those glowing, wonderful, amazing. But you don't really want to be keeping the cord to the guy who put petrol in your car because you're speaking to him, you're aligning, so you're forming a cord. If you're shielding and grounding and anchoring properly, these cords won't really latch onto you because your field will be firm, okay? But if you've got holes and tears in your auric field and you're not really doing the work, to the extent and you're not clearing and whatnot, then you're going to be picking up these cords, which then eventually end up draining you. So it's quite a vast subject. I hope this is kind of synthesized.
I could learn more about with your ebook.
Yes, it's an ebook on my website, and it's literally explains all the different types of cords, and there's methods in where you can remove them yourself, and just different practices that you can use with crystals as well.
I see. That's the post that you did, Reuben.
Yeah, I just posted
the
that.
link. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
One more thing. How booked up do you get to work with individuals, and how does somebody connect to you to do that?
Okay, so right now for one-on-one, I'm taking in bookings for June. I do offer emergency sessions for an extra scheduling fee. If someone really, really needs, then I can do that as well. But I do have a workshop coming up next Tuesday, actually, just before we do the guided meditation, where I'll be doing work on the Metatronic grid and activating a few things. And then I've got my collective healing, which is on the 12th of April as well, which is kind of like a recording that I give out and do. But for one-on-one work, there's a little bit of a waiting time.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Yeah, I'll make sure and put all the links
Yeah.
and all that in the replay for this. So just really quick, since we're on the cord subject, and I know you have a lot in your book, we can go there, but say there's somebody in your life that you're trying to be nice about, like setting the boundaries. What are some things you can do to help do that? Obviously, words can only go so far, right? You're trying to set healthy boundaries and like, okay, you don't want to let certain people into certain, I like to use the idea of rings. You have, your close friends, you're in this ring, and then you have your next level of rings. And then, but there's even those outer rings, you're like, yeah, we might need to put some boundaries there. How do you do that with as little words possible? Because a lot of people, words get mumble jumbled and misunderstood and all that stuff.
Yeah, but if they misunderstand and you're speaking your truth, that's not your problem.
All right. Okay. There we go.
But I mean, yeah, jokes aside, if you're speaking your truth and you're speaking from the heart and you're speaking from a space of compassion, and whoever's on the other side takes it personally or gets upset, that's not your problem. You can't control other people's emotions, actions, and words. You can only control your own. And if you're coming from a space of love, which is boundaries is the highest form of self-love. Absolutely. You need to be firm with your boundaries, and they don't get well received. That's not even someone you really want in your life if they cannot respect your boundaries that are coming from a space of love. So that's kind of like how I see it. And, it's people that I thought were going to be in my life ended up not being there when I started really anchoring into my truth, because they couldn't handle it, or they wanted to suck energy from me, or they, whatever it is. But we cannot take responsibility for other people's reactions if we're speaking from a space of truth and of love. And obviously with compassion, you don't have to want to be rude or treat someone with disrespect or anything like that. But, this is the perfect example. I'll always give this example. Your best friend wants to go out to a party. You don't feel like going, okay? So if you say yes, and then you go, then you don't really want to be there. So you're not in your truth, because you're doing something that is against where you really want to be, or you want to be doing, which means you want to be in bed or whatever, and by doing that, you're not only not standing in your truth, you're taking away a lesson from the other person, because they might need that no from you. They might need to hear that boundary from you. So boundaries are not only about ourselves, they are also about other people, because if they don't get that boundary from you, they might get it from someone else, and it might not be as nice. So really, really understanding that, checking in with yourself. I always really like to say that, your connection to your higher self and knowing and into that versions of you is directly proportionate to the depth to which you've met yourself, the clarity of your channel, the clarity of your information, So if you haven't really met yourself deeply and you don't really understand yourself, then you're going to struggle with setting the boundaries. So easy thing that you can do is just check before you answer. Just check in with yourself. Is this sitting okay with me? Am I good with this? And checking, are your thoughts, actions, emotions, and words all in alignment? Are you saying something and then doing it and following through with it? Are you doing something and do you really want to be doing it, or are you doing it against your will? So really, like, just checking in where you stand with yourself in relation to others.
Perfect. Wonderful. Miriam, go ahead. We have to unmute you.
Okay. Wait. Hold up. Sorry, guys.
I can jump ahead with
Can you hear
Mark.
me?
Should we come back? Oh, we can hear you. Okay. Yeah.
You guys hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Okay, sorry about that. So I have a quick question about, so I have a soul family member whom I recently cut ties with, and I was kind of I gave him the benefit of the doubt, and part of the well, I gave him the benefit of the doubt for a while. And I finally cut cords with him, and I told him, you know, I need my space. I love you, but right now is, you know, I need to focus on myself and my own development. And I'm pretty sure I felt confident that I did so from a place of knowing myself and from a place of love and compassion. But yet he didn't seem to get the message, and so I had to block him, block his number, and block his you know, all contact with him. And I even blocked his email address, which is what he's been trying to contact. Last week he contacted me a couple times via email, and I only know this because I went into my spam, which I guess is where blocked emails come into, and I saw a bunch of emails sitting in my spam from him. And he also, I'm not sure why he did this, but he sent me quite a large amount of money to my PayPal account. And so I'm just, I know there's nothing, I'm just like slightly confused right now what to do with that. And especially since he's, I'm not thinking of I'm not really wanting to reconnect with him. Or let me back up. The only reason I would want to reconnect with him is because he's one of my few soul family members on Earth. I only have 3 because this is my first incarnation. So I guess my question to you is, should I just continue to is this a sign from the universe basically that I should reach back out to him, or should I just stand firm in my knowing and not reconnect with him at all? Or by not reconnecting, am I breaking my soul contract that I had, or not learning a lesson, or is this the lesson, or what? Those are the thoughts that have been running through my head as of last week. When I went into my spam folder and saw what had happened, and also received a generous amount of money from him, which I don't feel guilty about. But it's just very odd. Anyways, that is all.
Okay. So definitely blocking someone is like a cord cutting ritual. Literally, that's what it is. Why did he send you money?
He has issues. Well, we all have issues, but he plays victim a lot, and I'm not sure. I don't want to bash him, but I don't know why he sent me money.
If you really want to cut the cord in the connection, I would send the money back. That's what I would do if I wouldn't want his field or any way of him to be able to interact or connect. I would just send the money back. By you accepting it, you're perpetuating the cord, and that's also okay if you're up to deal with that responsibility. But just so you know, from an energetic perspective, even if it's money or whatever it is, by you not accepting it, you are maintaining your boundary. By you accepting the money, you're kind of allowing for that connection. I can't say to you, yes, connect with them, don't connect and whatnot. So, I mean, if there's supposed to be a soul contract or a lesson, it's going to come through anyway. Doesn't matter whether you block him or don't block him or whatnot. Whatever the lesson is going to be, whatever the path is going to be, you're going to experience it regardless. If right now you feel like you shouldn't be connecting, interacting, blocking him and whatnot, then yeah, that's what I would do. I would keep on blocking him, and then I would send back the money that he sent you.
Right, but one thing about the money is it could be the universe, because it could be the universe giving me something. So in other words, I didn't accept or reject. It just sitting in my, there's nothing for me to accept or reject. He sent it directly to my account. like he did a direct deposit, because at one point we were involved in that way. We had each other's account numbers, but there's nothing for me to, so I can send it back to him, but just sending it back to him is might be an acknowledgement.
No. No, it could also be the universe testing you and seeing if you are perpetuating the cord or not. This is what I would personally do with regards to a cord. It's still an alignment and vibration. He sent it in your account. He sent it to you. By it being in your account, you've already accepted it. So no, I would, if you know, you can keep it. I'm not saying you shouldn't keep it, but I'm just saying from an energetic perspective, by you keeping it, you're accepting it, and you're not staying firm on that boundary, because now it's like, oh, okay, I'm blocking you, but now you've sent me money, so it's convenient for me to accept it, so I'm going to perpetuate the cord. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, thank you.
Pleasure.
Thanks, Miriam. Mark, hop in there.
Hi, thanks for taking the time to talk to us. I was curious, when you were channeling, does the channeling come down in the form of light language, or does it, and you have to translate it, or does it come down in regular language, and then you could translate it to light language, and can you translate light language spoken by others?
So I'll channel in light language directly, and then sometimes, well, you'll see now I'll do some channeling. So you'll see I'll do a little bit of light language and a little bit of English. I can generally get a feeling and sense of what other people are saying and what they're clearing, but I actually get told not to look at other energy workers or light language channelers, just because I have my own channel. But if I am seeing someone channeling light language, then I will generally be able to pick up the vibrational frequency of what it is that they're doing, or what they're clearing of, or what kind of like expression they're having through themselves.
Cool. And I was also curious about the green alien tattoo on your right arm, because that looks like the classic gray alien that may have abducted you. And usually, of course, I'm from a previous generation when tattoos were a big thing. I don't know if tattoos were like, you know, an insignificant thing, but, you know, they are like at least semi-permanent. So I would think that there's potentially something behind it.
Yeah, so okay, I've got one here, I've got another alien being here, and then I've got his spaceship here, and then I've got geometry. Everything that I tattoo on my body amplifies my already existing energy field. These are portals of light, this one, and then I've got another one here. I actually work with the ink on my body when I'm channeling. So some of them will pull through different vibrational frequencies. Some of them will pull through light. This one will work with the whole spectrum. So there is a reasoning behind kind of like what I put on my body as well. I get divinely guided to do that too. So I hope this also answers your question.
Curious, you've expanded my my knowing of tattoos greatly.
There you go.
Thank you.
Hey, it's Laura again. Can you guys hear me? Yeah. What was my question? If you get an tattoo with intention of it being a portal, can you do that, or is it because you have access to your gifts? Or I don't have any tattoos, but lately I've been wanting something to represent, you know, all the spiritual stuff. But anyway, I'm wondering about the whole portal thing.
Yeah, you for sure. If you get it with intention, then why not? You can definitely make it whatever it is that you want. So yeah, for sure. Get it with a high vibration, with the intention of it to raise your vibration, to help you activate your spiritual gifts. And then yes, everything is what you make of it. We master co-creator beings. So our mind is powerful. Our system is the most powerful machine ever created, you know? So yeah, of course, why not? Reuben, I think you're muted. Yeah, I can't hear you.
Man, there we go. There we go. Okay. Many, sorry, I kept missing the button. Yeah, many different cultures, you know, have different tattoos, have different meanings, right? The Maori tribes, right? They're big on the tattoos, full body tattoos. Japanese in many of the mafia have the tattoos, but it goes beyond that. It's more of a cultural thing as well. So we've been talking about all this light language. I'm wondering if we could get into it and get a little session for our group here. And then
I'll do a bit of clearing for you guys.
Yeah, and then maybe we can follow up with some questions, because I'm sure some might arise based on what you've done or what you're going to do.
Okay, guys, you can start with your eyes and anchoring into your body as you find a comfortable breathing rhythm. With every inhale, you breathe in light. With every exhale, you release all that no longer serves you. And as we call on the Archangelic Collective, Michael to the south, Uriel to the north, Raphael to the east, Gabriel to the west, we call on Archangel Metatron with his blue cloak of protection from above, and Sandalphon to seal the grid from below. So we call on our higher selves, our spirit guides, anyone else who wishes to be present for the greatest and highest good. You're welcome in the space. Okay, opening systems. Taishna teara trietu kumrasiera takra triate quiero to kurratra isirata. I'm doing a heart expansion now. Tiaro kiena takrati asiero unchara ishera takria takra reate kurra tria opening, calling in divine rays, green rays, aurora rays, rainbow rays, anchoring into systems, clearing, releasing, clearing your peripherals now. Calling in more light, divine rays, anchoring, pushing through, pushing out, all that no longer serves you, clearing, releasing toxins and clearing the bloodstream now. Some of you might be overheating or feeling this in your solar plexus. Activating, pulling in more light, divine rays, anchoring, opening to more light, more knowledge, more understanding of self, more codes coming in, anchoring, letting go of old structures, old paradigms, removing, decoding, detangling, clearing, releasing, opening, triana takre ut ura isik unaratrik arotik ara iset uratik ratrek orat en marasi ranrietara reino tuku are aishet oro asierata iana chieka smek soro aksierata kra train rat yetuk ura iaishil anya rota kria sierra takre triatic rasiero atiatieto no cora ishie na ria ishiero tu cura isirata reo tu ura tra train maratra Arsieto kumrasiera taka teo tuk ura yashie na te aritra Dakoro ishina takrasi ratik imaru unara yesero atera yeshira takram nietukura ishira activating crystalline codes, pulling in more light, more rays, anchoring divine rays, pulling in, coming in, anchoring, opening, expanding, attuning systems, expanding, Expanding the throat. Trieta cry. Cry a siro nara tries mate quiero tu da tu chinat shinkara sit kurut terai sira takra treana te ie shetu kura ishira tra. As we open to more love, more compassion, more understanding of self. Ishina tukura ishina ti tukuna ndira ishira tukumra isira tikir utkura isira takra isira ishira tak we open. As we expand, we make room for more light to come in. Yeshutukuma yesye oro ishira to anchor within our system, within our heart centers as we expand Yekuro ishira into unity, into oneness. Yero ishira tokura ishira teka ria soro ishira taka. We anchor into the light of self-love, into the light of self-trust, into the light of self-knowledge and understanding of self. More codes coming in, anchoring into softness, anchoring into compassion, empathy, understanding the space that we hold for ourselves and for our others around us. Shining our light. Re utukumra siero isie onotuku aishe naya tria kiero atsiero tokoro isira ishiro tok like children who learn to play ntakuru kuru ishina ria isi orotokura tria tiki katoku kari sira takra. As we anchor into more light, we anchor into more memory, activating memory, opening, anchoring more light into blueprint structure, activating, connecting, attuning, connecting synapses, opening into more light, more rays coming in, anchoring, Karo ishinati area sira takre. Trator kumaraxia xiro to kora ishera tierra tratrieta crietu kora isira takra. Okay, takuna ishera taka. Okay, shiro to kura anchoring into peripheral grounding into Mother Gaia, anchoring, rising, closing, ceiling, anchoring, anchoring, let it go. Ishana tokunan, shinara shiratakra. Ishana takara ishiratakra. Okay. As we anchor back to our body. We ground back into our physical vessel. We gently embody back into our third dimensional density and reality. Whenever we feel ready, we can open our eyes. Sorry, guys, I'm going to be clearing for a little bit. Welcome back.
That time I
Wow.
felt something. And it's the first time I ever listened with earphones too. Like,
Wonderful.
thank you.
Yeah, all kinds of stuff going on in that one. So before I say anything, I think I'd love to hear from our members. What order do you think we should go in? I kind of want to get from your perspective what you were doing, but I'm also curious to hear what the members were feeling, to see if that matches your intentions without like telling them, kind of like a test, a quiz. Do you want to play? Do you want to play quiz time, or should you tell us where
Yeah,
we're going?
I think it would be nice, yeah, to see
Mhm.
how everyone felt and what people felt differently. I think that would be good to know. Yeah.
All right, Mantis brother Tony's he's gonna share. Go ahead, get in there.
Oh, wow. Okay, can you hear me, guys?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Hi. Wow, this was amazing. Like there was this one point because I get visuals, right, as like you're doing your thing, and it was right before you said something that was like clearing or something of that thing. I almost saw like a Power Ranger, how like with his hand he does this, and like power goes out. So right before whatever you said, I saw the image of this thing go, and like I'm getting chills all all over my body. You can see on my head maybe. So like there was all these images, and then towards the very end, like the mantis head came, like, at least for me, as a confirmation. And it's funny that you yawned because the first time you yawned, I felt asleep. Like it's funny, all these like synchronicities. So it was fantastic. It was so grounding too. Like it just like, I mean, I just felt compressed and this feeling of like namaste, this best description I can say. But thank you. That was great.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. Thank you.
Yeah, I also felt the mantis at the end, towards the end, as well. So a nice confirmation there from Tony. Thank you. Miriam, you have your hand up. I didn't know if that was from before, or did you want to pop in now?
Oh, I think that was from before, but I can share my experience real quick. So I felt a lot of
Yeah.
energy. I tend to feel things a lot more than seeing things. When I do visualize, it's usually geometric shape in the form of like a geometry. But what I felt was in the beginning, I felt a lot of energy moving around in my leg area, like my lower legs. Felt a lot of energy moving around there, and then I felt a lot in my chest area and my throat area, and then towards the end of the meditation, again, I felt a lot of energy moving around in my lower leg area. I did see sort of a geometric shape towards the beginning. It was a circle, and then it almost looked like a mantis being turned sideways, if you will. But it was a very strange visualization that I saw. It kind of faded away real quick too, but it was like a circle, or like not a circle, an oval rather. And then there were 1, 2, 3, I want to say circles within it, or they could have been squares, and then or across it, and then encircling each of those squares, what was another circle, and then there were some sort of what looked like legs at the bottom. It was just very strange. It was like a very a faded glimpse of that is what I saw. But yeah, that's my experience.
Awesome. Thank you. We'll go through kind of quickly through everybody here, and then we'll come back with sort of a roundabout. Go ahead. Wait.
Okay, like Miriam, I don't visualize a lot, but what I found interesting is that it put me into a meditative state much more quickly than I would get there on my own, and I felt a lot of the energy I felt was up higher, and it was raising, and I felt it around my ears, my temples for a while, and there were certain tones that when you made them, it just kind of sent me deeper and gave me a sharp feeling of energy. Then towards the end, it kept moving up, and then I just felt so much energy right in this area, and I'm still feeling it around my upper head.
Awesome. Awesome. Beth, hop in there.
Thank you, Althea. Is it Althea or Altea?
It's Altea, the H is silent. but
Altea. Okay, thank you. I just felt energy today, and I can still feel it ricocheting around. I just wanted to say thanks. When I do follow you on Instagram, and when I need the codes that you share, it feels super magnetic, and I just feel the energy shooting through my body. And over time now, if it's a code that really resonates with me, I get it right. It pops up on my Instagram right when I wake up in the morning, like it's the first thing I see. But if it doesn't resonate as much, I'll see it later in the day. So it's somehow I've made sure that I get that early in the day, which is cool. So thank you.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Thanks, Beth. Judy, go ahead.
Oh, yes. Thank you very much for that. That was amazing. I too connected with the mantis beings, so I really had quite an experience feeling their energy going through me as you were doing the anchoring and the grounding. And I could feel myself grounding into earth physically, and then I could feel my spirit coming and grounding into my heart center more, and the grounding and connecting in with divine source as well. The mantis beings are all around me at the time that you were doing your light language. It was pretty amazing. And I always see them in their blazing colors. It's always this most amazing gold that I can't even describe as gold. And I could see them clearly for the light beings that they are. And I was actually had contact, physical contact with the mantis beings when I was a child. So I always remember that. And I've never been one to be afraid of them, because they've always been very loving and kind to me and have helped me throughout my lifetime. Thank you. That was amazing.
Beautiful.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. All right. So I also detected a little bit of well, one of the voices I hadn't heard in like 10 years. But I've heard some as a light language transmission, like way back when I first started getting into this stuff. And I didn't, at that time, it was kind of crazy for me, but so I don't have a place or a being or other than just hearing it from someone else. I'm like, oh, I haven't heard that sound in a while. And then some Atlantean stuff. Was there Atlantean stuff towards the end as well?
Yes, I pulled through quite a bit of technology towards the end as well. So yeah, that's probably also what came through. So I did basically a full system clearing. I activated and upgraded your memory construct. So if you guys feel a little bit kind of like foggy and dizzy and you struggling a little bit in this area here, you'll be recalibrating for the next few days at a clearing of sacral, solar plexus, peripheral clearing, blood clearing, nervous system clearing. So there was like a lot. Generally, whenever I get called on to do these kind of like clearings, either like on Zoom or on conferences and whatnot, it's generally like basically almost like a full system clearing and upgrade. And then where is most needed for you, you will go. So some people will clear more in the throat, some people will clear more in the solar plexus, some people will clear more in the third eye. So it really depends, but generally it's like it's a full system reset, and you will feel it for the next few hours, maybe even the next few days as well.
What are some things we can do to sort of anchor in this to make sure it, it's like getting a chiropractor adjustment, you don't, they tell you don't jump around too much or you'll mess up the adjustment afterwards. You kind of want to be careful. So what do we do?
Drink lots of water. Try to limit any kind of like intake of anything that is like, cigarettes or alcohol or like even coffee. Like try to limit it for like a day. Try keep your system as clean and clear as possible. Grounding as well is also really good. Also resting, meditation. I mean, obviously, if you've got work and things to do and whatnot, like still do your things, but yeah, just be a little bit more mindful that you might also have things come up in the next few days, like emotional things. You might feel a little bit more irritated, or like you don't want to be around people, or also like not necessarily, but it can happen. Or you might feel like, you want to eat more, like you want to sleep more. Just be mindful that you'll be readjusting and recalibrating. So yeah, I think just maybe a little bit more of TLC towards yourself would be really good. Yeah, feel the need to go lie down. Someone's saying messaging, they need to,
Yep.
So lie down, meditate, or like rest and integrate, because you'll be recalibrating for a little bit now.
Yeah, I also felt, and this is, I call this my my energy meter. My left knee, I tore my ACL a few years back in jiu-jitsu class, and ever since, whenever I go to a Bashar event, or when I'm doing meditations or stuff, my knee, I can feel inside my knee kind of like tensing up and doing strange things. So it's kind of become my energy meter for knowing when there's energy flowing through me, and it's trying to flow, and it feels like there's maybe stagnation there or something. So it gets caught up, and that's why it's like signaling and vibrating. So I was getting some of that there, and I have another injury now in my arm. So I was feeling those maybe stagnant energy, or just hurt points of injuries, like chronic injuries, old stuff, getting tensed up and moving.
And knees are like old stuff releasing. So you will be releasing old things through the knees. It's just it's like big karmic points in the knees and joints for releasing old things. So it's quite an alignment that you would feel it through that. It would make sense. Yeah.
Awesome. Wow. Well, I don't know if after that, I think we all need to go take a nap and go rest.
You all need to rest and integrate.
But I'll make sure and have your contacts and everything here. Is any final words you want to share special for our group here? Maybe, I don't know. What was coming through? There was purging also. So I'm just curious. I know we're all purging here. We're all doing our work.
Clearing whatever is needed to be cleared. I'll probably go on clearing for the next 20 minutes or so. So I'll also go in my pyramid and do a bit of work. But I guess just thank you for everyone. Thank you for holding the space. Thank you for sharing the space. Thank you so much, Reuben, for having me. It's always really wonderful to connect more in person other than on these big social media platforms that we have. So I guess just thank you, and he'll leave all my links. If you want to connect and contact me, then you'll know where to go.
Awesome. And how many hours are you ahead or behind, where, just so we know if somebody reaches out to you for planning for the future?
It's 20 past 12 at night here.
Okay.
But I generally get back to emails within 24 to 48 hours. But I'm in European time zone. So I'm like Pacific, I'm like 9 hours ahead, I think. It's probably like 3 o'clock for you or something.
3 o'clock. Yeah, we were just after 3. So you were not only yawning because of energy coming out, but also you're tired.
You'd be surprised, whenever I'm channeling, it's actually going to take me about an hour to fall asleep now, because I'll like wind down and clear. And whenever I'm channeling and I'm doing energy work, it doesn't matter if I haven't slept for 3 days. It's kind of like it kind of like gives you like almost like hyper. I don't know. So no, maybe not an hour, but I'll have to kind of like clear and calm down and before I can go to sleep. So no, the yawning is the clearing.
Awesome. Well, no, thank you for sharing your wonderful magic with us all, and your story and your journey, and look forward to seeing you more on Instagram. And now that I have the background with the light codes, and I'll be paying more attention to those, and just awesome stuff. Thank you for everything you're doing.
Tuesday. Are you also doing the meditation?
I'm going to bow on this one. I've got some, I'm going on a cruise next week. Right, Wade? Wade's going to be on there. And I got a lot of preparation to do before that. So some doctor's appointments and things. So I'm not going to be able to make this one, but it should be on the next one. think
I will
Natalie's
make the next one because I'll be traveling. So I'll see you on the one after that.
the one after that. Okay. Natalie's here on the call, so I'm sure she'll be there. And
Yes,
hopefully, yeah, everybody check out the these seems to be like twice a month now meditations that this crew's putting together with Natalie and Althea and Tim Tactics and the crew. Everybody's out doing stuff. So
Is Althea on the light language group?
I would assume,
yes.
right? Yeah.
Light language group. Yeah. I'm in the light language one. Yeah.
Can I ask
Sweet.
one quick
Oh, Laura.
additional
Yeah.
question?
Go ahead, Laura.
Hi, Althea. Another crystal question. I wrap crystals, not super fancy, just intuitively. And a lot of times I want to wrap specimens with the point up as opposed to the point down, like most people wear crystals. What is your take on whether they should be up or down? Because the one I'm holding right now, I kind of feel like should be pointing down because it has. Does that make sense?
I think if your intuition tells you to wrap it up, then that's how you should wrap it. I did macrame and crystal wrapping for quite a few years. I had a shop where I would sell and, and do all that kind of stuff too. And I think whatever, I would sometimes wrap them sideways or skew, whatever feels natural to you, I think you should follow.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yep. Always follow the heart, right?
Totally. Exactly.
There we go. Well, thanks again, Althea. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. I'm going to go off then. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for having me. We'll speak soon. We'll connect soon. And everyone must have a wonderful rest of your day. Rest, integrate, and drink lots of water. Okay?
Thank you. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.